Please be seated.
Your Honour, Commissioners, this is the Royal Commission's 54th case study. This public hearing will...
And repeat after me. I swear by Almighty God.
I swear by Almighty God.
Swear by Almighty God.
The evidence I shall give to this Royal Commission.
The evidence I shall give to this Royal Commission.
Shall be the truth.
Shall be the truth.
Shall be the truth.
The whole truth.
Whole truth.
And nothing but the truth.
Nothing but the truth.
Thank you. Take it. Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. O'Brien, I'll start with you. Would you state your full names, your position in the organisation and your address?
Yes, my name is Terence John O'Brien. My position with the organisation, as you mentioned, I'm a director of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Australia. I'm currently not serving as the coordinator of the branch committee in Australasia. I have an assignment in Papua New Guinea for 12 months, but I've kept up to date with the information to do with the Royal Commission. That's why I've come back for the hearing. So presently I reside in the branch facilities in Port Moresby in Papua New Guinea.
When did you cease having the responsibility of coordinator of the branch committee?
Beginning in October 2016.
And who is the current coordinator?
Name is Winston Payne.
Thank you. And Mr. Spinks, I'm coming to you. Would you state your full names, your position in the organisation?
Rodney Peter Spinks. I'm the Senior Service Desk Elder in the Service Department.
Can you explain what process Watchtower Australia went through in order to address the issues that had been raised?
So, as a branch committee, we considered the various issues as they applied to us as a branch committee, what areas of responsibility we could implement any suggested changes. As you would know, we had representatives from our world headquarters legal department here at case 29, and they returned with the case reports, and they've obviously looked at the reports in between. We've also since had members of our legal department here in Australia spend time at world headquarters. So many of these issues have been discussed, and that's where we are at present with them.
And I suppose you also identified what you regarded to be scriptural impediments to any changes.
Yes, that was part of the subject of discussion, but the scriptural content of any change that would be referred back to a different committee of the governing body. That's not something the branch committee would review.
Which committee of the governing body would that be?
Well, probably the teaching committee of the governing body.
And did the organisation in Australia take any external advice with regard to what procedures should be introduced or what changes should be made?
We considered the many reference materials that were provided to and by the Royal Commission. We reasoned that these are the ones with expertise that the Royal Commission has confidence in. So we've considered the various reports and case studies that were provided.
So if I'm to understand your answer correctly, you didn't take specific external expert advice with regard to changing your policies or procedures?
Not outside of what was presented to the Royal Commission, no.
Now, the upshot of that process you've described, as I understand it, is that initially at least 2 new documents were produced, one a guide to service desks and one a letter to elders. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So, if I understand this correctly, neither of these 2 documents go to ordinary congregants of the Jehovah's Witnesses. But leaving that document, that very recent document, to one side, is it the case then that insofar as the organisational response to allegations of child sexual abuse is concerned, ordinary congregants who are not elders and not deskmen, as they refer to as the service desk, would have regard to the publication organised to do Jehovah's will, to find the organisational response.
Yes, although that document, whilst these two documents are specifically dealing with child abuse matters, the Organised to Do Jehovah's Will is a publication that has very little to do with child sexual abuse. It's basically talking about the general ministry of Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yes, I understand that. So still leaving aside the document of 7 March 2017, if a congregant wanted to know what processes there are that the organisation follows in the event that an allegation of child sexual abuse is raised, there's no specific policy document that they can have any access to, is that right?
No, leaving aside that document which now corrects that.
Yes. And so to the extent that they could learn anything about, for example, the two-witness rule or the judicial process within the organisation, they would be left with organised to do Jehovah's will.
No, I think the average member of a congregation has exhaustive references to what we call the Watchtower library, and subjects such as those you've mentioned considered in Watchtower articles that everyone has access to.
And many of those going back over a long period of time.
And recent, yes, the most recent back to, I think, as far as 1930.
So by the recent ones, are you referring to articles referenced by you in your response and in your joint statement that have been published since case study 29?
Yes, some, but then there are other Watchtower study articles that are reviewed at congregation meetings, which would contain other relevant information, but not specifically only dealing with the same as those reference materials, which are specific on child abuse.
So an ordinary congregant would have to go doing their own research through those various publications you've mentioned to find the answer on any particular topic related to child sexual abuse, is that right?
Yes, but the Watchtower Library is very much a user-friendly program which most of Jehovah's Witnesses have little trouble finding their way through.
Well, I think you accepted on the previous occasion, Mr. O'Brien, that there was an absolute need in the organisation to bring these policies and procedures together in an easily accessible place for congregants. You recall that?
Yes, which is what we've done.
And that's what's led to the 7 March 2017 document, is that right?
Yes, because now it's specifically dealing with child abuse matters.
Yes. So let's go to that then. At tab 11. There's a letter from the solicitors. Perhaps there isn't. In any event, that's the first document at tab 11 is a solicitor's letter dated 8 March 2017, which in the main paragraph says that we've been working on developing a policy statement of Jehovah's Witnesses in Australia in relation to child protection. As the final draft has only just been completed for distribution to congregations, we are pleased to provide a copy of the child safeguarding policy of Jehovah's Witnesses in Australia. And then that's the document that follows. Now, firstly, in relation to this document, has it yet been published or made available to congregants generally in Australia?
No, it's dated for release in March. It had been planned some time with the wanting to get it to the Royal Commission before this. I feel this is the final version. It has been approved now by the branch committee, it is an Australia document. It's not a worldwide document, so we've been able to give approval for that now. So we anticipate in the next week or so it will now be made available to congregations throughout Australia.
And when you say you got approval for it, that's from the world headquarters or the governing body, is that right?
Yeah, a draft was obviously sent to the coordinators committee who look after legal matters for the worldwide field. But the Australia document here gained final approval by the branch committee for release.
When was it adopted by the branch committee?
Just this last week we've given the final version, the one that you have here.
You mean this week or do you mean last week?
No, this week we finalised the final edits on it, just a few minor edits.
Was there a meeting of the branch committee this week that approved and adopted this version?
I think the meeting was held previously. We would have just circulated it for final review, but it's only had a couple of minor edits to make on it.
And when did work on this document commence?
Well, I'm not sure on that. That's happened since my transfer to Papua New Guinea, but I think Mr. Spinks has been involved in that and he could give you a much better answer to the question.
Spinks?
So, immediately following the public hearing in case study 29, we went away with a clear picture, as did the representatives from headquarters here, that we needed to make some adjustments with documentation, which we incrementally did. So there's been a lot of discussion about this. It's actually based on a policy that was under development and issued for the UK, but obviously there are some different implications there. So it's been a drawn-out process, and towards the end we wanted to have it available for the Royal Commission. When our hearing date got brought forward, we have had to move quickly. We didn't send it to the congregations this week for the obvious reason that if there's a suggestion or discussion, we just wanted to reserve the right to make any minor adjustments before it's distributed. But it's taken some time, but we've actually brought it forward a little bit so we could present it to the Royal Commission.
And how long ago, Mr. Spinks, was it in a form similar to the one that we see now? In other words, leaving minor changes aside.
I'm not certain with regard to the UK, but I would think over the last 3 or 4 months there's been discussion and video conferences and that to get it into the shape that it's in. We wanted some specific inclusions, which we're glad have been included. We've referred to it as a living document that we want to make whatever adjustments need to be made to it, further adjustments if necessary, so that it's applicable for Australia.
Back to you, Mr. O'Brien. Is there any plan, to your knowledge, to revise, organised to do Jehovah's will, at least in relation to policies and procedures responding to child sexual abuse?
I'm unaware of any plans in that line.
Now, in relation to S66, so that's the guideline to service desks, I'd like to refer you to tab 20 itself, and the second bullet point you'll see it says that the letter of 1 August 2016, so that's the document we looked at earlier at tab 6, or 7 rather, will replace the letter dated October 1, 2012 to all bodies of elders. So I take it that's right, it replaces that earlier letter.
That's correct, yeah.
So as of the date of the 1 August 2016 letter, the 1 October 2012 letter no longer applies.
That's true.
Right. And in the main paragraph in that letter, I don't intend reading it, but you'll see that much emphasis is placed on the confidentiality of the S66 document, and it says as to who specifically it can be given to. including that it's not to be given to service desk secretaries. Now, can you just explain what is I know this instruction didn't come from you, it came from World Headquarters, but I'm hoping you can assist us. What's the secrecy or confidentiality concern with regard to this guide to service desks?
Once again, I could defer to Mr. Spinks, who will give you a more accurate answer than what I'd be able to.
He works in the service desk. Yes, Mr. Spinks.
Again, I probably can't answer for the reason that it was written there, but I guess those of us on service desks have been given a heavy responsibility, as we see it, to ensure that we meld together the August 1 letter and the service desk guidelines. It's a responsibility we take very seriously in giving advice out. So my reading of it was simply that it's the responsibility of the service desk to make application of it and has ownership of the document. Beyond that, I couldn't comment.
Do you appreciate that someone from outside the organisation might struggle to understand why there should be such secrecy with regard to something which is a procedural document as to how matters should be handled procedurally? Do you see that?
I recognise that, and this came up in the earlier public hearing, that there's no doubt that some of our correspondence, it's well understood by the audience it's intended for, but read from a critical perspective, and we appreciate that, that it could be seen that way. Our understanding of it, or our application of it, is the elders have a letter that applies to their function and role. The service desks have guidelines that are specific to their function and role, and there's some reasonable amount of discretion required in the application of that on a case-by-case basis. But I take your point.
See, it might leave someone with the impression that there's really a dual practice here, that congregants are being kept from information which, with regard to processes that govern their lives or govern issues that arise in their lives. Do you see that?
I understand that criticism that has been made. From our perspective, it's audience specific. The instructions are there for a service desk to make application of it. Again, I take your point.
Mr. Spinks.